Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. Welcome to Palantir Daily today. Heart-racing price action today in the pre-markets for Palantir, but kind of a doozy if you looked at regular hours when it first opened. But I'll also go over the Palantir news today, which includes Palantir's Wendy Anderson hitting back at the FUD around the NHS contract, and also with some efforts by NHS England to help the perception of AI in healthcare, and then bears coming out of the woodwork after Palantir's huge recent run-up. So price action first, and today is important to cover the pre-market, honestly. We saw a high of $20.27 in reaction to the macro environment. So if you were looking at the indices and other stocks, you may have seen similar behavior pre-market. And I think it's important to give some context here. The CPI, or Consumer Price Index, came in lower than expected in the pre-market, with the numbers being below Wall Street's expectations and estimates, which is good. This was primarily driven by energy declining by 2.5% for the month. And if other parts of the basket in inflation can catch up going downwards as well, this can really create a scenario for the Fed in the future needing to ease their tone on fighting inflation, since it can actually go down and appears to be doing so as of this data. So I'm still in the wait and see mode personally for when they actually even talk about rate cuts, let alone taking a stand in not raising rates anymore, which I think can take some time still for Powell to admit. Now, when the market opened, we did drop down with some early profit taking back into the high $19 range, and throughout the day, Palantir went as low as into the 1950s, but continued to roar back and try to test that $20 resistance point here. And just on simple price action psychology, closing above $20 will be a monumental moment where if we flip it, being a resistance point to a support point, you can possibly see more upside. Now, if the opposite plays out and continues to be solidified as resistance, it won't be surprising to test price levels below a support like 1950 we just did today, but also further down to $19 and even below. So as of this recording, Palantir is technically underperforming the broader market on a very green day for the indices, so just keep that in mind. All may not align with the broader market every single day. So now let's get onto the news next, but real quick, to always stay up to date with the latest Palantir news with these Palantir Daily videos, hit the bell icon to get that notification. Now the news itself. First, Palantir fights the FUD. We got Palantir's own Wendy R. Anderson, who is a senior vice president at Palantir on the government side here. She tweeted out this morning that #Palantir does not own, collect, keep, or sell any data. It provides transformation software trusted by the world's most critical institutions, ensuring the highest security standards and highest data privacy and civil liberty standards, full stop. We know she isn't calling anyone out specifically here, as she wrote, but we know this is a response to all the FUD happening around the NHS contract and just in general around Palantir's reputation as a spy company, stealing your data and all those things that they write in articles there. And it literally makes no sense for Palantir's business model or any value to them to do this and take your data. It's just great to see someone from Palantir actually standing up publicly to these false claims and making a statement. Then we got NHS England also pleading their case for the FDP contract and sharing 3 use cases of AI. And this is probably part of their campaign, honestly, to build up FDP confidence, releasing a news article today. It's titled Artificial Intelligence to Help Boost NHS Winter Response and Prevent Avoidable Admissions. They headline it that AI will spot at-risk patients that have to go to the hospital before they crash into an accident and emergency department, or kind of the emergency room in the United States. So first, one of the AI systems even takes into account patients who have rare amounts of contact with their general practitioner or GP to at least start the conversation on their health. And this can allow a proactive approach from the NHS, which is similar to preventative care, getting a checkup maybe here, but it's on steroids since the health provider is actually initiating it and reaching out to the patient. Then second, which I think this is a clever usage of AI, where they've put sensors on kettles and fridges in the hospital, of course, not in your personal life, that can give the AI more info on patient eating and drinking habits, which can flag patients that need to be reached out to. Honestly, this is a game changer in such a facility because it eases the burden on staff first of all, but it really brings attention to those that much need it quicker, and for those who can't actually communicate it easily for themselves, what they're feeling and if it's unusual, and some don't even realize if they are at risk and if this is a way they're supposed to feel. So this is a game changer in my opinion for health if it's scaled out over time, but the NHS is really testing out this new technology. Then third, they are using algorithms to prevent admissions. And yes, this is not a new usage here, and people have been doing this for the end of time to reduce admissions. But for an organization like the NHS that is known for not being technologically savvy or advanced, getting a start here, and I always talk about this, preventing admissions tends to lead to healthier populations, but also reduce costs for hospitals and care providers. Over the next 2 years, they want to prevent 4,500 unnecessary ER visits, 17,000 overnight admissions, with more than 23,000 general practitioners practitioner appointments, which really is all about allocating resources effectively to those who truly need it and then reducing burnout and more effective care, as I said. Then we get a conclusion on this, and essentially the NHS is wanting to prepare for the winter influx that can happen for their emergency departments, and these measures are to prevent this from overtaking the NHS, and NHS leadership provides plenty of quotes on the value of these programs and what they're doing and the technology behind it. Specifically, I just wanted to point out looking at their Director of Systems Transformation. He notes joining up the data is allowing this to happen, and if that's not a thumbs up for the FDP, which is essentially what it's doing, tying all the data from the distant systems and being able to analyze that fully then. But of course, politically outside, we know they will still fight them every step of the way and continue to wait for an official statement of Palantir winning the FDP contract, which we haven't gotten yet. Then we get a bear article out here from Reuters, and this was yesterday, and honestly, I do have a few critiques of the cherry picking of the article, but it's still important for us to be aware of the common arguments against Palantir bulls, and this is going to come up more commonly as the price goes up. Now, the title is already insinuating or trying to condition the reader to think mythology and Palantir almost like a fairy tale or fake, but either way, Reuters covering this is obviously a ploy for clicks, because when you see a hot stock that's moving a lot with a lot of volume and interest from the retail, you got to talk about it because it is going to drive traffic. So they open up with a very real argument, so I'm not saying it's false, of financial realities. And yes, I've acknowledged this too, with their top line growth still probably going to end up in the teens of growth for this year, which isn't what you want to see for a growth company trading at these multiples. And this, of course, naturally leads to the price to sales ratio and market arguments against Palantir today. So those are actually true fair arguments. So I'm not denying these facts they present, but it's odd that they also bring up securing government contracts being an issue when we all know this has been lumpy for their business, and admittedly so by Karp himself. But then you have Bank of America, who has the opposite kind of view here when you see the rising geopolitical tensions, as well as Palantir being almost a software prime for our government. So it's really weird how you could see these very two different stories. But then also being distrained by politics, I don't think this is actually real, and they do quote Palantir standing with Israel. And honestly, taking a stand with the West, which is their customer base and the policies for these countries and allies of the United States, isn't a risk to me at all. Then being quiet would have been, honestly, if they did the opposite, but they do rightly point out commercial is the bright spot for them and more promising, and say the one-size-fits-all doesn't work, so they are insinuating the consultancy argument again here. Now, for me, this is kind of annoying, as we've seen over time that they cover so many verticals and are able to build out use cases as an operating system for clients, because the real value is they aren't a one-size-fits-all, but they're also scalable as if they are one, since they provide the framework for these clients to build out their solutions that are essential for their business specifically. And then they got to put in this kind of article, the old dirty laundry out to air with buying gold bars and SPACs. Yeah, it may seem unconventional at the time, and it was actually a product of their times and didn't turn out well necessarily. But this is so far in the past that this article really isn't trying to see where the company is going or their forward trajectory or their turnaround and strategy of go-to markets with AIP bootcamps, which honestly is the big narrative right now, and the real effects of having it and how this will affect the company. You can tell it's to get the clicks and build up the narrative of Palantir, which, says that it's overvalued, which you can always argue with the hard numbers, but not looking any deeper does a disservice to the reader, thinking this is all that Palantir has to offer. And that's why I bring up this article here, just so we know this is what people are going to bring up as typical arguments. But to the end, on a lighter note, this is a daily reminder too that Amit actually runs a great daily Palantir video as well series, so check that out. He stopped by my inaugural Palantir daily video yesterday, so gotta let everyone know celebrities watch my videos too, and that's a joke. And if you want Palantir content too, I still make non-Palantir daily videos when there are subjects I think are valuable to take a closer look at. So I just released a video late last night on Palantir's improvements with Tampa Bay General Hospital and how the performance metrics they showed, besides the obvious nurse staffing here, which is still a big part, but also sepsis admissions getting length of stay reductions and the shortening of broad antibiotics timeframe, as well as accurate coding for revenue capture for crucial issues, because these are hospitals everywhere in the United States that want to fix this kind of stuff, and it reduces their costs or it increases their revenue, and this is honestly the same problem across everywhere. It's a huge opportunity for Palantir if they can scale this out to more organizations, so check it out if you'd like there in more detail. But thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I'll see you in the next Palantir Daily video.